So design of experiment, DOE, it is a statistical tool, right? So applied statistics, it is very useful, right? In statistics, right? It is used in most of the topics. So engineering, agricultural, that is medical, so all the science related, and economics, in business, everywhere design of experiment is involved, and they are using to find the conclusion, right, of a experiment. So design of experiment is a branch of applied statistics, deals with planning means you have to plan carefully the experiment. If you are going to do an experiment, right, you want to some conclusion about some experiment, so you have to plan the experiment very carefully. So in that, what are the factors are to be vary, right, and the level of factor, right, how much the level the factors can vary. So you have to plan the experiment according to that factor involved in that experiment, that is planning. Then conducting, according to planning, you have to conduct the experiment. So you have to carry it out according to the planned design, right, in that. So collected data, whatever it is, they are used properly in the consistent manner, right, in that experiment. So that is conducting. Then analyzing, so you have to analyze using various statistical methods are there. You have to use analyze the data collected, then identifying which factor have a significant impact on the outcome. So on the experiment outcome, which factor is have a most powerful, that is um, impact, right, on that, and how they are impacting, right, how they are interacting with that, right, that we have to analyze. Then and interpreting means, so you have to draw a conclusion, right, about the relationship between the factors which we have used and the outcome of the experiment. So from that we have to get a conclusion. So from that conclusion, how to optimize the product, whatever it is, the factor involved, that is the interpreting. So in the controlled test, to evaluate the factors that control the value of parameters or group of parameters, that is the factor, right. Design of experiment is a systematic, efficient method that enables scientists, engineers, economists, and business analysts to study the relationship between multiple input variables and key output variables. It is a structured approach for collecting data and making right. The design of experiments may be defined as a structured approach to planning and conducting experiments, where the aim is to systematically investigate how different factors influence a response variable, right, and to minimize the uncertainty in the conclusions drawn from the experiment. The purpose of experimental design is to obtain maximum information of an experiment with the minimum experimental error, cost, and labor. That is very important. So we need to get a minimum error, right, but cost involved in that experiment also very minimum, and the labors, whatever it is, that is also very minimum. A single person can judge a big deal, then it is very big profit, right, in business. That is what, right? That is the purpose of this design of experiment, right? Next we see components of experimental design. So experiment, that means it is a way of getting answer to a question which the experiment wants to know, correct? Example, so for example in agricultural, the experiment is to checking the yields, growth of plants, right? So if you want to check the output of a paddy, right, in a paddy field, so how it is, if it is the yield depends upon the situation there, that is soil and nature, rainfall, that is nature mean rainfalls, then manures, that is fertilizers, etc, etc, right? Based on that we want to experiment, right, the yield, that is the experiment, right? Next, treatment. Different objects or procedures which are to be compared in the experiment are called treatments. Treatments means just in again we are taking the example of agriculture. In a field, in a paddy field, if you want to the outcome of the yield from the plot, from the field, if you are segregating, right, the treatments, first soil, you can take the different soils, you can take the different fertilizers, so you can increase or decrease the rainfall, you can increase or decrease the temperature in a cold climate or the medium climate and very high temperature, right? Right, in that situation how you are getting the yields of your paddy, so that is the treatment which we are going to give, right? So that is the example of treatments. Next, experimental units. So for conducting an experiment, the experimental material is divided into smaller parts. So that is what, so if you want to check the yields of your paddy, right? So if you need different type of plots with soil, different type of soil, right? So we can divide into so many parts of that field with different soils. That is called experimental units. Each one part is an experimental units, right? The experimental unit is randomly assigned to treatment, right? So plot of land is the experimental unit. Next, blocks. Arranging the experimental units in a group that are similar to one another are called block. Suppose if you are dividing the field according to the soil nature, so same type of soils are there available, right, in that division, right? So you have to group all those what that soil nature field, right, same soil nature field, that is called, that group is called blocks, right? So dividing the plot of land into equal parts, right? Next, experimental error. Experimental error is the random variation present in all experimental results. Suppose if you are using same soil nature, right, same soil, the type of soil is same, right, there are 10 fields are there, you are giving same treatment to the 10 fields, but the yield is different definitely, right? So that is called experimental error, right? The different experiment units will give different response to the same treatment, that is what. So experimental error does not means that doing math correctly using wrong formula, wrong experiment, that is not experimental error. So experimental error is the output, right? So the experimental units will give different response to the same treatment, that is called experimental error, right? The response from all experimental units receiving the same treatment may not be same even under similar conditions, right? This variation in response may be due to the various reason, like soil property, right, climate factor, genetic difference, etc. Next, experiment of effectiveness of fertilizers type 1 and fertilizer type 2. We'll see, right? Treatment first. So fertilizer type 1 we are using. Treatment 2, fertilizer type 2. So there are so many blocks, right? Separate blocks in. We are using treatment 1, that is fertilizer type of 1. Similarly, treatment 2, there are so many blocks are there, right? These are called blocks, right? Same type. Block 1, block 2. So each one is called experimental units, right? These are all the experimental units. Thanks.